Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Pokies Burke, and this is the Career Slay podcast. Imagine the impact we could have on society if everyone loved what they did. That's what Career Slay is all about. I'm interviewing people who love their jobs and asking them how they got there and what they've learned along the way. We're here to slay the fear in career. On today's episode, we've got Lowe. Lane turns inspiration into action, and in her 15 years working with executives and entrepreneurs, she's transformed hundreds of visions into reality through building brands, crafting messages, and amplifying missions. She's spent her early career as a designer and a creative director, then found her way to the classroom through Teach for America. She now combines her marketing expertise and passion for educational equity at Matterlab, which she co-founded in 2017, helping leaders clarify their identities and communicate their impact. Welcome, Lane.
Thank you so much for having me, Kelly. I am thrilled to speak with you today and hopefully inspire some folks, as I know you are aiming to do with this podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. Why don't we start at the very beginning? So tell me a little bit more about yourself and your origin story, your superhero origin story. Tell me about yourself.
So I grew up in a suburb of Washington, D.C., Chantilly, Virginia. My educational experience really shaped me. I attended public schools my whole life and thought that my public school experience was the same as kids all over the U.S., that everyone had really inspiring teachers and wonderful educational opportunities and got to go, visit the Washington Monument on their field trips like I did. And then it wasn't really until I got to college that I realized that wasn't true. And I unknowingly actually attended one of the top public school districts in the whole country, Fairfax County Public Schools, and had some of the best teachers that I could have ever asked for. And so I think that really shaped my career and path forward. I'll never forget two teachers in particular who I still keep in touch with today, who very much helped set me on my journey. So I had Mrs. Tomes in the 6th grade and Mrs. Downs, or MKD, as she is lovingly known, my high school yearbook teacher, really helped me find my own confidence, find my own creativity, find that you can combine those things and really do anything.
That's amazing. So you had an amazing high school experience, but where did you go to college?
So I went to James Madison University. It is in the Valley of the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia, about 2 hours southeast of where I grew up. And so it was, I think, the perfect distance from home where I really could be independent, but also could go home and have my mom do my laundry on the weekends. So it worked out really well. And one of the reasons that I chose JMU is I wanted to study journalism, and they had a brand new program called the School of Media Arts and Design, or SMAD for short.
Love those acronyms.
And it was a really exciting program right at sort of this time in the field of journalism where things were very rapidly changing. This makes me sound so old, but the internet was becoming a thing.
What is the internet?
Was it just a fad? No, it turns out it completely reshaped the journalism industry and made me kind of rethink that career path upon graduation. But the other thing that was really unique about my college experience that I'll never forget is the location in this sort of rural setting in Harrisonburg, Virginia, meant that I was around very different people from whom I grew up with in this sort of suburban urban area outside of DC. And so within the community in Harrisonburg, I ended up volunteering through the Big Brothers Big Sisters program and met this wonderful 4th grade little girl named Myra and got to really understand through her educational experiences that the education system in our country was not what I thought it was growing up, and that it was something I wanted to help improve. I got to do that in a very small way, working one-on-one with Myra, but then decided that I would spend my career really trying to focus on that. And I like to think that I've done that along the way.
That's amazing. I had no idea. Tell us a little bit more about the demographics in that area and some of the things that you learned from Myra.
Harrisonburg, Virginia at the time, not sure if it still is, was home to one of the largest chicken plants in the country. Purdue has a huge factory there. And so most of the population worked for one of those facilities. They're lower wage jobs and often attracted folks who couldn't find anything else to do in the US, which actually a lot of the time meant immigrants. And so the population was primarily Hispanic and lower income. And so that was my experience in the public school system there as well. So a lot of kids were coming in trying to not only learn, math and science and history, but also learn all of that in English, which was their second language.
Wow.
So it was really different from my experience growing up. And I just saw so many problems that I wanted to help solve.
Was there a particular experience with Myra that really unlocked this passion for social good?
Yeah, I think about one particular time that we were hanging out at her house, and I really wanted to take her to the library. And my own experience as a kid going to the library was very eye-opening. I got to explore worlds outside of my own. Myra had actually never been to her local library. She was in the 4th grade. And I thought, wow, that, again, is so different from my own upbringing and so eye-opening for me that I wanted to find ways in my life going forward, in my career going forward, that I could help other kids have educational opportunities that allowed them to explore their worlds.
That really became kind of the overarching theme in your career, right? Because What did you do after college?
As I mentioned, the journalism field was very rapidly changing, I would say imploding in some ways. So when I graduated, I took a job not in journalism, but in design. And that started my creative journey as well. So I started out as a graphic designer for a consulting company that worked in healthcare and education. So again, this through line of education, really right from my very first job out of college. And knew that I wanted to stay in a creative career, but one that was also helping people, helping my community.
So we talked about your graphic design job. Was that the spark of creativity, or what led you to your next move?
I like to think that I was a very career-driven, independent woman, at age 23 or 24.
You totally were.
But my next move was sparked by a boy. So I had rekindled a romance with my high school sweetheart, who is now my husband, by the way.
I was going to say, I know your husband. I was going to be like, this is really awkward if it wasn't going to be him. But yeah.
No worries there. So,
hi, Alex.
Yes, hi. So he was living in Dallas at the time, and I was in Washington, D.C. And the long distance thing was great. I was living my independent life. But I also thought, well, if we're going to make this a thing, we should probably live closer than halfway across the country. So I decided to make the move out to Dallas and try a new place. And, I'm still here today, 14 years later? So I'd say it worked out. And so when transitioning into my next job, I knew that it was possible to do something creative that also made an impact, right? That's what I was doing in DC, and I wanted to continue doing that. So I searched for jobs that would allow me to do that in the year 2009, which, if you recall, wasn't the best time to be searching for a new job. But it all worked out. I ended up working for a few different education companies in their marketing and design departments, and continued to see how education and creativity could really coexist in this beautiful way. And really from those experiences, got to see even further why our education system was not working for so many. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget one of my projects in my first job in Dallas was designing campaigns for what we called non-traditional students to go to college. And by non-traditional, it basically meant people who didn't go straight out of high school for whatever reason. Okay. Maybe they chose to join the military. Maybe they started a family and then wanted to go back to school later on in life. And really, for the most part, it was that it was either financially or for whatever family reasons not possible for them to go to college.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought, that's quite a lot of people who aren't getting to go on and have the post-secondary learning experience that they want. I want to find a way to change that, and not through a marketing campaign. Mm-hmm. And so that is what led me to the classroom. I found Teach for America, a program that I thought very highly of in terms of its reputation and also ability to train somebody like me who was not a teacher and who didn't have that background in college to be a great teacher.
What did you teach?
I then got a job at Uplift Education, a charter school in Dallas, teaching second grade. And that was and is, I believe, the best age group to teach. 7 and 8-year-olds are just the absolute best. They want to learn so much. They love their teacher. They love school. They don't yet talk back. It was everything that I really wanted in a career and in a learning experience to truly understand the communities that I was living in and working in and understand where there were still gaps in our education system that either I could try to fill or I could rally others around me to try to fill or continue on in my career and try to fill in some other way.
So why did you decide not to continue being a teacher?
That was a really hard decision for me. And ultimately, it came down to where I saw that I could have the greatest impact. And for me personally, it was combining my past experiences and passions and knowledge with what I learned from the classroom and doing that at a scale that would allow me to work with not just the 25 kids in my own classroom, but hopefully with many, many more. So that led me to go work for Teach for America for the nonprofit and launch their marketing and communications work. So again, kind of combining everything I had been doing previously, bringing that creativity, that education experience, and that passion for helping kids into one job.
That's awesome. So you were the marketing director for Teach for America. What did you do in that role? Did you still have interaction with kids at that point?
Yeah, it was a really unique time to be at the organization in that it was growing at the time, and I really got to define my role, as did many others working there. So what my role looked like was really being an internal agency of one. So I got to do a little bit of everything and sort of service the different departments within Teach for America. So I got to work with the development team on fundraising campaigns. I got to work with the HR department on internal communications. I got to work with our government department on state funding campaigns and so forth. And so it really exposed me to a lot of different facets of the education system that I hadn't necessarily worked in before and taught me a lot about running an agency, frankly. So it was really wonderful in getting to work with people from all different parts of the organization. It also helped me understand the education ecosystem, particularly in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, but really opened my eyes to all of the different players that are all working toward a common vision of what we like to call educational equity. And I'll never forget one of my favorite campaigns that I worked on with a few of my other colleagues was a campaign to help the community understand who are all of the education nonprofits in our community and what is each one's unique role in helping students and families. The message of the campaign was that the education system is a big puzzle and you are the missing piece. And so we actually kind of made a physical puzzle with each organization as its own piece, and then the middle centerpiece was missing, and that was you as a teacher, you as a funder, you as a school leader, whatever that piece that you played was needed. It was helpful in understanding the full spectrum of services really that are available to students and families, and that many of them were so underutilized or unknown. That really sparked something in me in wanting to ensure that families and kids were taking advantage of all the resources available to them and were being able to live out their dreams.
Wow, that sounds like such a unique job, specifically crafted for you and your background and experience, because it takes the social impact along with the creativity and merges that with the journalism. Wow. So what made you decide that you wanted to pursue your MBA? Because that seems like a complete 180.
Yeah. I will never forget going to an info session. I wasn't quite sure I wanted to pursue my MBA, but I decided I could go to an info session. That's not committing, right? Dave Jackson was up on the stage. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
He, too, had a journalism background. And the way he described what an MBA did for him and his career and his ability to kind of further impact the world was something I wished I could say. He essentially said, I went back to school to get my MBA so that when big decisions were being made in an organization, I had a seat at the table. And I thought, wow, I think to that point had felt a little bit siloed in this creative, fun space. And don't get me wrong, my career had been very creative and fun up to that point. But I also wanted to infuse a bit more seriousness into it. And I think a lot of that comes from having the data to support what you're doing, having the business acumen to support what you're doing, and being able to communicate that really well to a leadership team that may not be familiar with whatever marketing and communications means. And so that really, thanks, Dave. You did your job really well.
I know.
That recruited me.
He recruited me too.
Yeah. Fast forward, 2 years later, and I could absolutely say the same thing that Dave said then.
We met in the MBA program. You were also doing your MBA with your high school sweetheart.
Indeed.
Now husband. We all became very close friends. But I remember, during that time, you had such a passion for entrepreneurship. And I knew, I was like, okay, Lane is like was it the venture club?
Yeah.
Yeah, the venture club president. I'm like, she's going to work for some tech startup. But no, you did something different. Tell us about what you decided to do after your MBA.
Yes, I did have this vision that I would go work for a startup that was pretty different from what I knew, right? I wanted to try something different. I wanted to expand my horizons. Looking back, the people that I met through the MBA program, that is how I expanded my horizons. And the different perspectives that everyone brought into my life, and I hope that I brought into theirs.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, that is where I found that sort of missing piece that I was looking for. And I realized I didn't necessarily need that then for my next career. I could kind of stay on a similar path, but bring in all of those perspectives that I had gained into that. It was about halfway through in the fall of the second year when we were all preparing for the big interview day that UT puts on, right? About August of that year, I got an email that I thought was from a recruiter. So I kind of let it sit for a while. I'd seen several of those come through. They seemed pretty spammy and I ignored them. Something made me go back to this one. I don't remember exactly what now. And I thought I should give this person a call. Her name was Cersei. Hi, Cersei. I'm very glad that I took that call. I took it during a family reunion, thinking it would be a few minutes with the recruiter. An hour or two later, I had to go back and apologize to the family for missing our gathering because Cersei and I really hit it off. Something you should know about Cersei that I have told her many, many times is that she is a visionary leader and communicator. And that is something you always want on your team at the home. And she certainly inspired me that very first day. Went something like, hey, Lane, we are, it sounds like we're doing really similar things. We've both got a background in marketing and communications for nonprofits and in education. And I've been looking for the perfect person to join me in this work. And that sounds like you. I thought, well, sure does. You're so right. Let's do this thing. At the time, I was living in Dallas. Cersei was living in Austin. We decided to meet up halfway in between and spent a day together in Waco, lovely Waco, Texas. We thought we were having lunch. We ended up having lunch and dinner. And the rest, as they say, is history.
It's like meeting someone for a first date and you lose track of the time.
Yeah.
So what was the result of that long meeting with Cersei in Waco?
That is Matterlab. Matterlab is a marketing and communications agency. We work with leaders in the education sector to help them clarify their identities and communicate their impact. And we've been doing that ever since that fall of 2017. It is hard to believe it has been almost 5 years now, and it's been an incredible journey. And I am so grateful to have had Cersei stalk me through LinkedIn and be able to do this thing alongside her and our team now over these past 5 years.
Cool. So you were co-founders of this company. Tell me a little bit more about what exactly you do.
I, as any entrepreneur will tell you, get to do a little bit of everything. Because of my creative background in particular, I have really led our creative team over the years now and helped build out the creative practice at Matterlab. And so that has looked like ensuring that the leaders that we work with are equipped with the communications and marketing messages and materials that they need to go out and achieve their goals. Many nonprofits and education organizations that exist in the world, similar to what I was describing earlier, have these great missions and great programs that a lot of families and students just don't know about. So we really get to help these mission-driven leaders more effectively communicate and accomplish their goals, taking these kind of abstract ideas and visions that they have and making them really concrete.
I love the fact that you found something that, and it seems to be a theme in your entire career. It's like you're taking purpose, you're taking creativity, you're taking all of the things that are exciting to you and that you're passionate about and turning it into something you do for work every day. So why is it important to infuse purpose and passion into your career?
I think that is true for anyone, and especially for entrepreneurs, because when you are waking up every day and trying to solve a problem or learn something new or help a team member, if there's not a bigger reason behind that, it's going to be very hard to want to get up and do those things. Having that purpose in your career, and hopefully it's a purpose that you also care about outside of work, just helps you do that, helps you get up every day and go to work and have it not really feel like work.
That's awesome. I'm so happy for you, Lane, and congrats to all of Matterlab's success and how you guys have grown so much over the past several years. How many employees do you have now at Matterlab?
So we are a team of 10 full-time employees now, and we have about 10 contractors that we work with on a pretty frequent basis, and that is expected to grow in the near future.
That's awesome. So, Lane, in looking back at your career, has there been a particular challenge, either personal or professional, that you've had to overcome that's given you clarity on how you approach work?
Like I said earlier, I think I've always seen myself as an entrepreneur, and what I would like for others to also see in themselves is that spirit of entrepreneurship. I think everyone is an entrepreneur. I think everyone has that creativity within them, and there will be challenges along the way that will test that. And so for me, that test was actually this risk of jumping into this thing called Matterlab that I had just met my CEO. I had just decided that I was going to go this route versus interviewing for all these tech startups. There was no telling what the future looked like. And I would just like to encourage everyone to know that that's true no matter where you go and what you do.
So one question we ask everyone on the podcast is, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
So the way that I got over that risk or that challenge in my own mind of, this real fear of what lied ahead with Matterlab was advice that I remember to this day that Yasmin Bhatia, the CEO of Uplift Education, once said to me. Whenever you are thinking about a transition in your career, going on to do something new, something different, 3 things should be true. Number 1, don't be the smartest person in the room. Always be learning from others around you. Number 2, find and follow a visionary leader, one whose purpose is greater than themselves. And number 3, make an impact. No matter what you're doing, no matter where you are, be helping other people, be helping your community, be making an impact. And I would say when I looked at this opportunity in front of me with Matterlab, I could absolutely say those things were true. And that was it. That was really all it took for me. And I think that the way that I defined success for myself also played into that. Particularly MBA grads are coming out of school and thinking success looks like a really high-paying job or a really awesome corporate role at a big company. And so success to me meant having freedom over decisions, freedom over how I would spend my time, choosing who I might work with. And those things also would be true. I could see, that much into my future with Matterlab. And I can look back confidently and say that I made the right choice.
I love that. That is so inspiring. I'm going to take that and totally put that in my little book of advice I need to tell myself. That's amazing. So I feel like we covered so much ground today, and your story is amazing. All of your accomplishments. I'm just so, inspired right now. But if you were to sum up your career in 3 words, what would those be?
Well, I like to think that if you were listening along the way, you would also think of these 3 words because I said them a lot: education, entrepreneurship, and joy. And I think joy comes from a few different things. Comes from certainly having purpose in your work. And I hope that I've been an example of the fact that you can find a career you love that also has a purpose, a greater purpose in this world. And I think joy can also come from little things like the fact that we happen to build at Matterlab a team that's really motivated by food. And so snacks are a big part of our culture. And I love that. We've also found joy in this new weird remote work world and ways to connect and collaborate together. To me, those things are important, big and small. And being able to help people, to educate them, certainly is a huge reason that I do what I do. And being an entrepreneur and hopefully being a model that entrepreneurship can look many different ways and that everyone can be an entrepreneur.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Lane, for your time and for sharing your story and for the inspiring words. I'm really excited to share this episode with everyone. It's going to be amazing.
Well, thank you for all the work that you've been doing to put this together and to find people who have had really interesting career paths and journeys, and I'm just glad to be a small part of it.
You are the missing piece in the puzzle.
Thank you.
The Career Slate podcast is a co-production of Career Slate and Wild Reply, produced by Michael Berg. Stay tuned for some great conversations on slaying the fear in career.